Welcome to the Humanities Team podcast with me, Steve Farrell. Humanities Team is an international spiritual movement whose purpose is to communicate and demonstrate the timeless truth that we are all one, with the divine and all life, caring for each other and the world we share, so that people's actions reflect this profound understanding within our generation. We believe that living this truth is essential to resolving the most chronic and acute world challenges and vital to creating a flourishing world of peace, harmony, and happiness. We offer transformative education programs in personal and spiritual development, and we host an annual event called Global Oneness Day. Similar to Earth Day, which galvanized the global environmental movement, Global Oneness Day has become a catalyst for spiritual activism and an integral part of the present-day global oneness movement, which represents a profound new paradigm in human culture. Humanities Team is the only global nonprofit organization working in transformational education. Since we are a nonprofit, there is no focus on growing profits or satisfying shareholders, and 100% of all revenue goes toward our work supporting conscious evolution, planetary awakening, and flourishing at every level of life. If you'd like to learn more about us or want to support our mission directly through donation or volunteering some of your time, please visit us online at humanitiesteam.org. And lastly, if you enjoyed this podcast, we'd be grateful if you'd leave us a review.
Now, our theme for today's program is Divine Satsang, opening our hearts and prioritizing freedom to enhance conscious living. So what a beautiful theme. And let me give a proper introduction to Sadhvi, and let's bring her up on the screen so you can see Sadhvi as I read her introduction. So Sadhvi Bhagawati Saraswati, also known as Sadhvi, is a best-selling author who gives keynote addresses on a wide variety of topics, ranging from conscious business to science and spirituality to sustainable development, to the keys of happiness and peace in life, to all aspects of yoga. In her new memoir, Hollywood to the Himalayas, A Journey of Healing and Transformation, she speaks with global thought leaders including Marianne Williamson, Bruce H. Lipton, PhD, Reverend Michael Bernard Beckwith, Marcy Shimoff, Dr. Sue Morter, Jack Canfield, Lynn McTaggart, Janet Bay Atwood, Deborah Poneman, and John Robbins about breaking free of the stress, fear, negativity, addictions, and depression that so many of us struggle with. Sadhvi is president of Divine Shakti Foundation, a charitable organization bringing education and empowerment to women and children. She is also Secretary General of Global Interfaith Wash Alliance, launched by UNICEF, the first alliance of religious leaders for water, sanitation, and hygiene, and also director of the world-famous International Yoga Foundation. Originally from Los Angeles and a graduate of Stanford University, Sadhvi has lived in Rishikesh in the Himalayas for 24 years, where she gives spiritual discourses, satsang, and meditation, and leads myriad humanitarian programs. And Sadhvi, again, welcome to the program. So wonderful to have you with us here today.
Steve, thank you so much for having me, and such a joy and such a blessing to be with you and all of our community today.
Yes, well, back at you. And boy, when we talk about creating conscious living worldwide by 2040, boy, you're out there as a pace setter making it happen. And so wonderful. Let's open up this conversation with this book that you've just come out with. It's called Hollywood to Himalayas, A Journey of Healing and Transformation. And I know this book is getting an incredible reception. It's available in bookstores now and on Amazon. If you Google it, you'll see the reception the book is getting. It's amazing. So let's just chat a little bit about this really important book. Sadhvi, what things would you share here? Because we'd love to invite our viewers to come in and read this book if they haven't already.
Sure. It's been such a beautiful opportunity to be able to share it with the world, because I've been living in India for 25 years in the sacred land called Rishikesh on the banks of Mother Ganga, right in the lap of the Himalayas. And over these 25 years, I've had such a beautiful opportunity to learn, to study, to immerse myself in spiritual study and to share, to teach, to lead. And over these years, what I've seen is that so many of the people who come, so many of the people who sit in our evening satsang, which literally means, we'll talk more about satsang later, but literally it means in the presence of truth. And so many of the people who come and who sit each evening and ask questions that I have the great blessing to have answers flow through me that I can share with them, they seem to think that I have been cut kind of from a different cloth. And I've heard people say things like, well, you couldn't really understand this or that. Or, well, I know you don't think like this, or you don't struggle with this, but, and the dilemma with thinking like that is A, it isn't true, but B, it actually keeps people from realizing, recognizing, and stepping up to the incredible possibility for their freedom in their life, to simply put me on a pedestal, to put me as someone who is cut from a different cloth, someone who is somehow different in a way that makes these things possible for me, but not for you, deprives you of the very birthright, of the very reason for your birth, which is for you to experience, to know the truth of who you are, for you to experience freedom, for you to experience oneness with the divine. And so 25 years into a life in Rishikesh, 21 years into a life of celibate renunciation, a monastic path, about 15 years into teaching and leading, I finally realized people really need to know actually my story so that they realize she's not cut from a different cloth. She didn't come out of the womb like this. She understands struggle and pain, suffering, trauma, and she's been blessed with this experience of awakening, this experience of grace that actually can be everyone's. And so I wrote the book to give people obviously an enjoyable time. It's a great story how I came as this 25-year-old white Jewish Californian woman with a backpack to India because her husband was on a spiritual quest. I was not. And yet had this incredible, unanticipated, ununderstood, unconsciously sought for spiritual awakening experience on the banks of this sacred river. And then had so many incredible experiences of literally hearing voices, literally getting my feet stuck to the pavement in the ashram and not being able to leave. Experiences that made me know that's where I'm meant to be, that's where I'm meant to live. And the last 25 years of experiences of incredible spiritual ecstasy and expansion and oneness and melting and merging into that capital T truth. And also experiences of challenge and experiences of facing the layers of the ego layer by layer, each time thinking, okay, I'm done now. And then another layer appearing, arising, showing itself, and facing that. But along the way, doing so with the awareness that was given to me at the very beginning of the truth of who I am, which is one with the divine. And that experience of a fullness, a perfection that was the exact antithesis of how I had spent the first 25 years of my life, which was pretty much hating myself, suffering deeply from the experiences, the very traumatic experiences that I had had in early childhood, suffering with eating disorder and addictions and all just being mired in that which so many of us are mired in, which is this knowing that we are supposed to be free, but not actually knowing where it's going to come from. And so thinking it's going to come from a bottle or from something you smoke or something you inhale or a Mrs. Fields cookie or whatever it may be that's going to be our life raft out of the pain we're in. It's so interesting because as we learn, as we get, more and more familiar and accustomed to all of the different modalities, it's actually such a great lesson to just keep reminding us that no matter how many things we think we've set, no matter how many things you think you've planned for, prepared for, nonetheless, the universe has its own plans, its own way. And so many of us move through our lives as though the way to manage our stress, the way to manage our discomfort, the way to manage our frustration, the way to manage our anxieties is to just get everything really, really, really set. But that takes the universe out of the equation. And you can't do that. So it doesn't actually work. And so I actually love moments like this because it's this great reminder from the universe that, oh yeah, you can have this whole big tech setup. And then I don't know what happened to the camera. For some reason, it just stopped working and we had to change cameras. And it's such a great just reminder that it's not about managing everything outside. It's not about ensuring that this is set, that is set. It's actually about ensuring that inside we are set so that when inevitably the metaphoric cameras or lights or microphone or internet connection or computer or whatever it may be in our lives goes out of whack, we are still set. We're still grounded, we're still anchored, and we're able to kind of flow and play with the malfunctions of the universe that are not malfunctions. That's one of the things that struck me, Steve, so much actually about India, because as I said, I didn't know that I was going on a spiritual path. I was not consciously seeking or searching. I had bought in many ways, actually, to the equation we're given that if you want to be happy, if you want to live in peace, you need to look this way, get this type of education, have this type of home in this area of town. I mean, I was only 25, but up until that part of my life, whether it was social status, whether it was academic success, whether it was fashion, whether it was what my body should look like, I had really bought into the cultural sense of, if you want to be happy, you need to own this, look like this, achieve this, go here, vacation here. And when I got to India, after I had that experience I was telling you about, on standing on the banks of the sacred Ganga River, what we in English, here we say the Ganges, but actually it's the Sanskrit word is Ganga, the Ganga River. After I had that experience and so many other experiences that made me know this is where I'm meant to be, I looked around me and I looked at the children and the people who in so many cases had nothing. I mean, they lived so far below Western standards of poverty, and yet they were happy. And it's, when you were saying, Steve, about these ideas of prosperity, it was such a shock to me to look at these people who literally didn't have shoes and yet had a light in their eyes and a joy in their life that no one I knew, growing up in Hollywood, growing up in Beverly Hills, growing up in a world of privilege and opportunity, we had everything, but we didn't have that light in our eyes. And these kids with nothing, or with nothing tangible in our Western way of understanding that, nonetheless, they had this light in their eyes. And I remember saying, there is a secret here. And I need to stay here long enough to find it. I need to figure out what is this secret that makes these people so happy. And as I experienced and learned and drank and swam in the truth and the teachings and the culture and the wisdom, that knowing became my knowing. And of course, then it wasn't just a matter of find the secret and leave. It was, oh, so this is what life is about. And so you stay. So it's been an extraordinary 25 years there in India of learning, deep learning, not just academic learning. It was very clear to me from the beginning that I was not sent there on an academic exercise. I had come in from Palo Alto, from the San Francisco Bay Area, where there's innumerable places that one could learn about Eastern philosophy, about Hinduism, about the Vedas, so much you could learn. And that was 25 years ago. I knew God has sent me here not just for an academic experience, but for a very deep life experience. And so the learning that I did was done just by immersing myself in the culture, in the wisdom, in the teachings. And as those teachings became mine, whether it was teachings of learning to let go, learning to forgive, such deep forgiveness that breaks that karmic cord that binds you to the one who harmed you. Such deep forgiveness that literally all of the tension in that cord just dissipates and you're free. Such deep letting go of the identity as the one who had experienced this pain, who had experienced these struggles, who had experienced this trauma. And sitting in an experience of the self that doesn't actually end here, that isn't about a size or a shape or a color or a race or a religion, but that is actually about spirit and soul and love and energy, and that is one with all. So that's been the Hollywood to the Himalayas journey, and it's been such a gift to have the book come out, because it's got, of course, that physical arc of my particular journey from Hollywood to the Himalayas via Stanford. And that journey's exciting, and it's an adventure, and you'll laugh, you'll cry, it'll open up a world for you. But there's another arc, and that's the arc of the way of thinking that has nothing to do with a physical journey, because for people reading the book, it's very likely that their physical arc is not going to be an arc from LA to Rishikesh via Stanford now for the rest of their lives. Some may come like that, but for most people, your dharma is something different. Your life package is something different. But the arc of a changing of how we think from what you could call the Hollywood way of thinking, of this is who I am, my height, my weight, my skin color, my bank account, my sexual orientation, my career, to more of what you could call the Himalayan way of thinking, which is you have a body, you have a role that you're playing, but you're not the body. You're not the role, you're not the drama. You are the soul, the spirit, you are love. You are truth, you are consciousness. And that experience, that freedom that Deva and I were talking about, is something that is available for everyone, regardless of what physical arc your life may take. And so that was really the agenda for me in writing the book, was in addition to just sharing this incredible spiritual adventure, was to share how people's own way of thinking can shift, how their own life patterns can shift, how they can find freedom in letting go and forgiveness.
Let me share. So we were talking in our green room before we came on camera, and I was telling Sadhvi, this is just, this is the way the universe works. Of course, the divine is everything happens in perfect timing. We don't even have to plan it. It just unfolds that way. And in today's world, with COVID and with climate change and with polarity and Afghanistan and things, as we know, because there are media accounts of this, there's a stirring going on. People are leaving high-paid jobs for purposeful jobs. People are examining their close relationships. People are feeling into their deeper values. So here's Kathy's question. She says, where can we start our spiritual journey and our daily practice, please?
Beautiful. Start it right here, right now, in this breath. Because as you take your breath, recognize that which is flowing into you connects you with everything. You are breathing in that sacred life force that we're told by physicists came out of the Big Bang. All of that energy in the universe right now, the energy that makes us up, the energy we breathe in, it's all the energy that has existed forever. We are not separate from that. And as you breathe it in, just know that you are breathing in the energy of the universe. And as you breathe it out, know that you are breathing out into the universe, that you are now the breath into the universe. And as you anchor yourself in that breath, know and feel the boundaries of your physical body dissolve. There isn't time in the next, 2 minutes to lead a long meditation, but you can do it on your own. As you meditate, as you breathe, just know that the very boundaries of the self are dissolving. And experience that sense of oneness with all.
If you'd like to receive all of our new podcast episodes, please click on the subscribe button. To find out more about Humanities Team transformational education programs and about how you can help support our mission, please visit us online at humanitiesteam.org, where you can also sign up for our email list so we can let you know about our free online events and other news about what we're up to each week. And again, if you enjoyed this podcast, please leave us a review. Thank you.